to consider a ceasefire agreement. I remember that one of the separatist organizations, SOCADEF, run by an individual known as Ebenezer Kwanga, had actually declared a unilateral ceasefire by his own faction. But of course, there was no responding or corresponding agreement by the government to respect that ceasefire. We also know that some of the other separatist groups that operate within the region were not so keen to follow suit because of the lack of trust that exists between the state and these organizations. That ceasefire. We also know that some of the other separatist groups that operate within the region were not so keen to.
It seems we're having technical difficulty in getting feedback from you, Mr. Otto. David, we hope to join back to reconnect with you very shortly, but we are going to open our lines to listen to what you have to say regarding the call made by Kardinal Tumi, the Catholic clergy, who's calling for amnesty for separatist leaders and equally calling for a ceasefire. Now, do you think that this call for a ceasefire, and granting amnesty to separatist leaders bring this crisis to an end is the big question we have this day? Equally joining us on the program this day from Zoom, the United States, equally it's Mbah Akuro. Thanks for joining us, sir. You're live on Views on the Continent. And granting amnesty to separatist leaders bring this crisis to an end is the big question we have this day. Equally joining us.
I think there is a problem in terms of, I can listen to myself speak. Is there something that your technical...
Yes, we are certainly having technical difficulty in getting the feedback directly, and our technicians are working surely on that to put all in order so that we get feedback from you. And topic this day is looking at the call made by Kardinal Tumi for ceasefire and equally granting amnesty to separatist leaders. Can President be ahead to this call to bring this long crisis to an end? 4 years and counting. Schools have been closed. Schools have been attacked recently, where school children, 7 in number, were killed in Kumba, Southwest region recently. Equally another attack on schools equally happened in Cameroon, still in Limbe, still in the Southwest region, and several other attacks have been orchestrated. Kardinal Tumi was kidnapped alongside the phone of Saw in the Northwest region. Let's get back to you, Otto. David, I think the connections are good with you on that side. Let's begin or continue with you. Can you get the feedback from us, Mr. David?
Yes, I can hear you now. I don't know if you can hear me, but as I said, in order for you to achieve an effective ceasefire, the government has to be able to show that it is willing to comply, but also there has to be an acceptance by all the key separatist groups that are operating within the region that a ceasefire is necessary. I mean, you've got to understand that from a practical point of view, you cannot have a ceasefire when you don't have what you call an area that needs to be mapped out as a line that one or the other group cannot cross that line. So where is the safe zone going to be developed? And is the government willing to accept that its forces are pulled out of the Southwest and Northwest regions? So, the key here is to be able to have a guarantor like the United Nations or any other country that can ensure that any ceasefire agreement will be respected. Because what you have in practice is that just by saying that there is a ceasefire, it's not enough. And one needs to be able to draw a line whereby each organization or each terrorist, each separatist organization and each government military and security unit, will not be able to cross that line. But, this is something which I believe needs to take more time to plan and execute.
has been focused only on the government, just like you equally mentioned that the government has to call for a ceasefire. But now when we look at the call made earlier, before these several calls have been coming up, the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres earlier in March equally called for a global ceasefire for all attentions to be focused on the fight against the coronavirus. He said that all warring parties should declare a ceasefire, which means that every of the parties fight on the ground. It's not about the government forces, but the separatists fight as equal on their part. Now, are the separatists on their part ready to lay down their arms for peace to reign, or certainly to focus the fight against the coronavirus, which is now a common a global enemy? Now, the part of the separatists, do you think they are equally willing to lay down their arms now? Because we understand that the several factions of the separatists fighting on the ground. Are they ready? Do you think they could be ready to lay down their arms?
I think from the experience that I've had, the separatists are more than ready to consider a ceasefire agreement. But of course, this has to be a practical decision that has to be taken. Pre-talks have to be engaged with the separatist movement to determine, how the ceasefire agreement is going to work. Remember that just by calling a ceasefire by the UN, a Secretary General, it doesn't really mean anything in practice. You've got to be able to determine the safe zone in which that agreement is going to function. So I'm sure that the greatest burden lies with the government. If the government accepts and agrees that it is willing to consider a ceasefire agreement, there will be talks between the government and these separatist organizations, groups that operate in the region, to determine the safe zone. But without the government agreeing to consider a ceasefire, I don't think it's possible for just one or two separatist groups to then declare a unilateral ceasefire. It's not going to work. So it's a matter of coordination by both parties in the conflict.
All right, thank you, David. Now, let's get to Mbah Akuro. Now, you're joining us live this on the program. Now, you're coming at a time when several happenings have been recorded on the ground regarding the ongoing crisis in these two English-speaking regions. Latest of the event is a call made by Kazna Tumi for President Biya to declare a ceasefire and equally grant amnesty for separatist leaders. Now, this is coming after he was kidnapped in Baba in the Northwest region by separatist leaders. Now, how do you welcome this position taken by Kazna Tumi after he was arrested or kidnapped and released by separatists in the Northwest region, Mr. Mbah Akuro?
Well, I'll begin by thanking you for bringing me into this program. And I'd like to point out that what Christian Cardinal Tumi has said is not something that is entirely new. Before Christian Cardinal Tumi made this call, several other bodies before him have actually talked about the need for a ceasefire. And I just listened to Mr. Otto talk, and he pointed out that the global call for a ceasefire by the Secretary General of the United Nations was actually heeded too by one of us, by Comrade Ebenezer Akwanga, with his APLM. He even went ahead to declare a unilateral ceasefire. And if you look at the reaction of the Cameroon government to that action, it was more or less like, okay, they are surrendering because, they are realizing that that there is absolutely nothing they can do. And that kind of attitude did not encourage other actors to feel like it was the right thing to do. That is why Mr. Akwanga came under enormous fire from his peers, those of them who have armed groups on the ground, because they felt that he acted, in weakness. So what I'm trying to point out here is that the Cameroon government has demonstrated more than ever before, and in several ways, that they are absolutely unwilling to engage in any meaningful discussions, to engage in any meaningful dialogue, let alone talk about negotiations. They continue to have that misleading belief that they can win this thing militarily, which is something that has not happened elsewhere and is not going to begin happening in the situation between the Cameroons. Because when you look at what is happening on the ground, just take a look at the DDR centers. Ask yourself for how long these centers have been open, how many people have surrendered into these centers, what is how do those who surrendered into the centers react? It will simply make you know that this is a cycle that is definitely not going to know any end if the government of Cameroon doesn't show sufficient goodwill in actually addressing the issues the way they are. And again, you should note that the issue of a ceasefire is quite sticky, because while for some, they just believe that it means that the government of Cameroon should withdraw its forces back into the barracks, a good lot of other protagonists in the southern Cameroons believe that the government of Cameroon should simply withdraw its forces and its administration back to La République du Cameroon, and then let both parties stay on their sides while the international system sets in to see how to broker peace. So I think that the government of Cameroon has been given a lot of opportunities to try and see if they could get towards the ceasefire. After they held a meeting with Mr. Julius Ayuktabe Seseku in Yaoundé, they turned around again and claimed that the allegations, they called it allegations that there were meetings, was false. But then he presented to them a number of conditions that needed to be fulfilled for there to be a ceasefire. And I'm sure the conditions he presented were not even different from what Christian Cardinal Toomey has talked about. Though some of us even consider that the call for general amnesty is unnecessary. We can't be obtaining permission from La République du Cameroon to get into our territory. We just believe that there should be a comprehensive approach towards resolving this situation between the two Cameroons. And the easiest way to do that is to move on to the negotiation table. You discover the degree of willingness on the southern Cameroon side to address this issue by the fact that some of our people even decided to, get into a Swiss-led initiative without sufficient scrutiny, just because of that thirst to talk, to prove to the world that we have always been ready, that we are ready at any given moment to talk, because we know that whatever the circumstances, this will end on the negotiations table. It failed ab initio because politics failed to fix it. It is true that politics is the only thing that will resolve this, but that has to happen now on a negotiation table. If the government of Cameroon shows sufficient goodwill, and goodwill, it needs to be tested, because the government of Cameroon, over the years, for decades, has caused the people to distrust it to a certain degree that is unimaginable. If we talk about ceasefire, the people want to see La République du Cameroon pull out entirely, and perhaps another force stand in the middle between the two sides for people to really consider that yes, something is beginning to be done. Because on its own, La République du Cameroon cannot convince anyone, not even the international community, that they can give their word and stand by it. That is my perspective as far as this is concerned.
All right. Now, in your talk, you made mention of the fact that Ayotzabe was contacted for negotiations, and he laid down certain conditions for a ceasefire. Now, we understand equally that when Ayotzabe was contacted, there are some groups, separatist group, who equally doubted the legitimacy of Ayotzabe to represent the struggle. Now, when all this confusion is up now, how do you think the government can trust whoever to talk with? Because we understand that it starts with the separatists on their different factions coming together under one canopy or under one voice. Now, when we realize that there are several divisions and opinions are not binding, now, don't you think that this is one of the challenges that the Cameroon government, maybe on its part, is facing to approach the situation rightly?
Begin by letting you know that even the Cameroon government itself is divided. Don't buy into that narrative that they are giving. The Cameroon government itself is so seriously divided because there are those who feel that this matter should be resolved on a negotiating table, and there are others who feel that it is war all the way that will resolve this conflict. And when you're talking about the situation within the Southern Cameroon's movements, let me remind you We have said it over and over. You have heard all the factions, let me call them like that, say it. Southern Cameroons or Amazonia will negotiate as a team. Does this tell you a thing? If you listen to Comrade Choayaba, he tells you we will negotiate as a team. If you listen to Sako Samuel, he tells you we will negotiate as a team. If you listen to Ayuk Tabe Julius Sisiku, he tells you we will negotiate as a team. That indicates to you that fundamentally we really don't have differences. What we have that may appear to the rest of the world as differences is we simply want greater scrutiny of whoever will be the mediator. We simply want greater clarity, and we simply want the respect of standard operation procedures, that are well known and established when it comes to matters of international negotiations. And then when you talk about the Cameroon government perhaps getting confused on who to really talk to, we have always been very clear that we will be available. We have a lot of platforms that have come up. Some have failed because the Cameroon government itself does a lot of works over time, using Southern Cameroonians who are working within its system to bring as much division as possible, just so it could justify to the rest of the world that it will not talk because they don't know who to talk to. Let me remind you, perhaps, and all those who are listening to me, we all are talking to each other. We have back channels that enable us to discuss with each other. We know that La République du Cameroun is frustrated that they don't have a unique sparring partner that they can easily either bribe off or use other means to coerce into, just yielding into the kind of trap that they have been setting. La République du Cameroun doesn't believe in resolution. They believe either in bribery and corruption or in coercion or in any of those kind of things. That is why what appears to them as, division seems to be the best thing that, they can pick and run away with. But take note, we are one people. We are ready for negotiations at any time, for discussions, and we will talk like one people. La République du Cameroun should not wait on us to come and say, okay, we are now united, go and, give mandate to, whichever body is seeking the opportunity to mediate in this conflict. I think that to show good faith, they themselves should begin by demonstrating their willingness to come to the table, find themselves on the table, and not see us there before complaining. When people raised voices to say there were this or that thing that they did not agree with Comrade Sisiku Ayuk Tabe's participation in discussions with La République du Cameroun, it definitely could just be a matter of form. Not that fundamentally it was not possible to have discussions. Even those who appear to say, oh, he's not the right person to talk and all of those things, they too really did have a point at some levels, because they feel for Mr. Ayuk Tabe to sufficiently play his role, talk on behalf of the people and have weight, he doesn't need to be in incarceration. So for La République du Cameroun to demonstrate that they are really serious about what they want to do, let them go ahead, set him free, let him get to wherever he is going, and then we now agree and on a specific place to meet at and begin talking. That makes a lot more sense. So what people are talking about is skepticism. It's not really like Ayuk Tabe shouldn't have a right to talk on behalf of the Southern Cameroons. He's a leader. But the thing is, where he is makes him vulnerable, makes it difficult for him to actually talk, and then hold positions in a way he really ought to. And so I think they shouldn't confuse that to mean that people think that he doesn't have a right to talk on behalf of the Southern Cameroons, so nobody has a right. We are intrinsically united. Give us bring yourself to the table, and you'll find Southern Cameroons there as a united front. That one has always been very clear, right from the point. I think Mr. Otto is here. He's had opportunity to talk with the Southern Cameroons leaders, even people on both sides of the divide, in one session. And he can assure you that we do talk to each other, we do meet, we actually do exchange notes, and we are all concerned about being able to address this situation as one bunch.
John Mbah Akuro will come back to you, but before then, let's have a call online. Mr. Zhang calling us this day. You're live on the program, Mr. Zhang. Thanks for being there. Let's have your opinion, sir.
afternoon.
Hear you.
I want to start by thanking God for Afrique Media, because it is only in Afrique Media that you can have Mbah Akuro who can come and talk, and there are other TV. There are TV. Nobody can go there and talk. I want to start by saying that it is very difficult to deal with hypocrites. I will repeat again. It is very difficult to deal with hypocrites. What am I talking about? The Cameroonian government say that they will not let 1 inch of their country to anyone. This is the first point. The second point, the separatists say that they want their country. Now, where will be the negotiation? Nobody is ready. Nobody is ready. So why are we disturbing ourselves talking about a negotiation? If we talk about negotiation, it is when every part is ready to give something. But both parts, nobody is ready to give something. And the separatists has to know that in Nigeria, in 1975, there was a Biafra war. Until today, they are still fighting for their land, and they are not getting it. Why? Because Cameroon refused to give them the Cameroon base as their back base. Now, where is the back base of the separatists? I used to watch their TV, and in their TV, just on Monday, they just invite one person from Somaliland, and the person explained to them how the Somaliland got their independence. The Somaliland has military. They have a back base. But separatists don't have anything. So why are they disturbing people? They cannot get this land. If they cannot get the land, why are they continue to kill people? But what I want to say is that, what I want to say to these separatist people is that they will one day be in front of God, and God will ask them, why are they started this war? Why are they started this war of liberation? They are not ready, and they will not be ready. It is not with these thief people that they are taking and saying that they are talking about this. What am I saying? These Amber boys. They are not military. They are not military, and the Cameroon will never allow you to have this land. Whatever you will do, if you want, kill all the Anglophone people in Norway and Southwest. Kill them if you want, but you will never get this land. You will never get this land. If you want negotiation, you have to forget about having the land, your own country. Then we can sit down and see what the...
All right. Thank you very much for your opinion. We very much appreciate that. We continue getting more opinions. This is on the program Views on the Continent. If you're there watching us, you can send us your calls and numbers on your screen and share with us your thoughts. We have a call online. Welcome to the program. Good afternoon. Your left, can we hear you?
Hello. Right now, Mr. John Mbah Akuro is one of the main reasons that we have so many people dying in our country. They are educated fools sitting. They are educated fools sitting in the diaspora, sending children to go and die in the bush.
Yeah, send your contributions without insults, please. We appreciate you not to insult. Rather go ahead and make your contributions constructively. We appreciate that without any insults, definitely. Now, we'll come back to you then. We get back to you, Mr. Otto. David, you just listened there to the first caller's remark, opinion. Now, any comment on that before we get to our next question, which is about granting amnesty?
I think it's important to always consider each one's opinion and each one's position of how they view the ongoing crisis. But what is very key is to understand that when we talk about a ceasefire, when we talk about an amnesty, we're talking about an agreement that has to come from both sides in the conflict. Of course, if the government, as the government has said on several occasions, if the government continues to believe that the form of the state, is not going to change, and the separatists also believe that the only way forward is that it's either separation or nothing. Then you've got to understand that there is a headlock there, and there is kind of a lock jam. But what we've continuously seen, especially when it comes to the behaviors of both actors, is a continuous engagement and a show of readiness on the side of the separatists to engage in some form of dialogue and in some form of negotiation with the government of Cameroon. On the other side, and in all honesty, the government has selected to not engage with the separatists, and perhaps the reason is that the government believes that it will win the war in the battlefield, and my experience with this kind of conflict is that the government may be mistaken in its belief. I mean, the separatist groups may look comparatively weak in the eyes of the government, but you're talking about a war that is fought on the basis of real injustice, which has been meted upon the people of this region, and that means even though the group may look weak now, as time goes on, you shouldn't be surprised that from my trend analysis, the group is growing in terms of its tactical capabilities. So I think it's important for the government to select the option of having a realistic negotiation and to have a discussion with the leaders of the separatist organization. I mean, the government hasn't done that, and I know for sure that many calls have been made for the government to sit down with these leaders. Now, if the government says that they are disunited, that is not a position that can be proven in practice because there is no occasion in which the government has tried to engage and not succeeded in engaging. What one has to always take into account is that even though separatist organizations may, from an operational perspective, have differences with other factions, from an ideological point of view, they are all chasing the same goal. So in a position where the government agrees that they are ready to talk because they are the bigger party here, then it makes sense that we would see some kind of an improvement, in terms of a way forward. What one shouldn't confuse is that the fact that the government has the biggest military to pursue this war doesn't necessarily mean that it would win the war. So it's a matter of interest. If if Cameroon is one and indivisible, as the government says it is, then I think it is only kind of loyal and patriotic for the government to engage with individuals that it sees as, part of that territory. The fact that the government is not talking to these separatist organizations is a clear acceptance that the country is not united.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Otto. Now, before we come back to you, John Mbah Akuro, let's have this call online. We're glad to have you joining us live on the program. Let's have your opinion. You're welcome to Views on the Continent. Let's hear you. We have a call online. Welcome to the program. You're live on
Thank
Views
you
on
for
the
the opportunity you give me to participate in this program. And I will not blame the separatists. I will not blame the Cameroon government, but I'll blame the Cameroonians, because the separatists are playing their part. The Cameroon government is also playing its part, which everybody should come together, because the people who are suffering are the innocent souls, are the grassroots people like us who have nothing to feed for ourselves. The ministers' children are out there, they're enjoying their life. The separatist fighters, their children are also out there, they're enjoying their life. Some of us who have no means to go out there, or some of us who have no means to send our children to school out of the Anglophone area, we are suffering. So my plea to the government and to Afrique media is that Afrique media should call the ministers, those ministers and those separatists. They should have a debate on Afrique media platform. Let us hear their mind. That is the best way I think we can start by solving this problem, because it is the only media who speak the truth. That is the little contribution I have. And
all right. We appreciate your contribution and proposal as well. Thanks for being there. If you have another call online again before we continue, if a caller is online, let's have you. Do we have a call online? Welcome to the program of Views on the Continent.
I'm Maurice calling from Douala. In the context of this Anglophone crisis, the government somehow is still trying to play within its old metrics and way of doing.
We could not get your opinion right through to the end, but thanks for being there, Maurice Martin from Douala. Now back to you, John Mbah Akuro. You listened to the different opinions from the different callers now. What's your comment on that? They had their different opinions to share, and you were very much listening. Let's hear from you.
Thank you very much. I actually appreciate that they come in and give their perspective of this ongoing genocide in the southern Cameroons. Let me address the first caller. The first caller said, he said the Biafran war raged on for a number of years, and they failed because they didn't have a backyard, and that what is happening to the southern Cameroons is likely going to end in like manners. I like to draw the attention of this gentleman who even says, and it's outrageous that he says this, that the southern Cameroonians started this war. Southern Cameroonians never declared a war. I'm sure if this gentleman looks back at what happened in 2016 right through to January 2017, he will understand the degree to which our people of the southern Cameroons were determined to have this matter settled on the discussion table. There were several meetings, a lot of meetings, and don't forget, I am of the consortium, and the consortium does not have a military wing. The consortium does not have an armed wing. We actually came in and stood up with the same philosophy that the SCNC, which is another sister organization that does not also have, troops on the ground. We believed in the force of argument and not the argument of force. We sounded loud and clear at every given moment that we felt that by the force of argument, we should be able to agree on how best to accommodate the differences between the people of La République du Cameroon and those of the Southern Cameroons. You will recall that while between the 13th and 14th of January 2017, leaders of the consortium have had serious meetings with the government parties, with government ministers, and until we got to a point where the consortium simply asked the government, give us a few days to go back to the people whom we are representing, who are listening to us, who are, whose aspirations we are representing, to explain to them that you have made this proposal, and so we should give you time to address this situation. While the leaders of the consortium separated from that meeting on the 14th of January and went out there planning to hold meetings in Bamenda, in Boya, to try and bring the population on board with the new stance that we should give the government some time, the government decided to go on a crackdown. And even when this government went on a crackdown, we still did not accept that, that fight. You remember that for several months, our people went onto the streets holding just peace plans. We made sure we led serious campaigns on social media to draw the attention of the people that during demonstrations, don't hold even a stick. Don't hold big rubber guns. Don't hold even a small rubber gun. Don't carry any catapult. Hold nothing. Go out there just with peace plans so that the forces of law and order know that we are not coming for war. We are simply expressing ourselves, which is a fundamental human right recognized internationally. But what did we face? At every given opportunity, they opened fire. Opened fire with live bullets and killed people. That's how the first casualty became Akum Julius. When Mancho Bibixi went out there, he went out there simply with a coffin and nothing more. What did they meet? Brutality. And remember that despite all this, we continued with peaceful demonstrations right up to October 2017. I want to remind you that even when the government shut down the internet in the entire Southern Cameroon's territory, our people still did not find any excuse to go violent. No, we never. Until on the 22nd of September 2017, when we had millions of Southern Cameroonians come out to the streets to disprove the government and the rest of those around the world who were still contending. There was just a bunch of people trying to create confusion. The government fired at people with helicopter gunships. On the 1st of October, same thing. And then the culmination was when Mr. Paul Biya simply declared war on the 30th of November 2017. At what point did we declare war? We didn't. And one thing again I want to say is, when you look at the Biafran situation as the model, I want to point out to you the situation of East Timor. East Timor went through the same kind of crisis like us, with internal enablers, with their sons and daughters who were working within the government of Indonesia, playing against them. But it took the time that it took. Can you imagine with the huge Indonesian military, they were never able to outdo East Timor. Where was East Timor's backyard? Can this scholar tell me? This is one thing. And then the next scholar says, John Mbah Akuro is one of the reasons these people are dying, and he calls us educated fools lost abroad. Mr. Bitter, I hope you recall that I am a journalist by profession, that I would jealously be at CRTV in Yaoundé serving my profession very peacefully, as I always did, contributing to see how to move society forward. If the government of Cameroon did not begin hunting me down like they hunt down wild animals in the forest, I won't be out of the country. And like I said before, I cannot be a reason people are dying. I myself, I had to run away from death. I myself am a victim. And again, remember that the voices of people like me, the voices of all the members of the consortium, those of the SCNC, that kept talking about the need to pursue the force of argument and not the argument of force, got drowned in the huge brutality, the excessive use of force by the Cameroon government. We have seen situations over east of the Mungo where people have come out in big numbers to defy the military and strike. What did they use? They used tear gas, they used rubber bullets, they used other means to dissuade people and all whatnot. They didn't kill any. They didn't use live bullets. But in the southern Cameroons, Anytime there's a least misunderstanding, is live bullet. This began not just in 2016 or 2017. You recall that even at the launch of the SDF in 1990, on the 6th of May 1990, what did they do? They killed 6 people in Bamenda. How many did they kill elsewhere on the territory? It's like if a Southern Cameroonian complains, it's anathema. We are supposed to be slaves who just resign to our fate and accept it the way it is without opening our fangs to complain about anything. Let me make clear. Call us separatists, call us pro-independence activists. We are ready for talks. Why is La République du Cameroun running away from talks? La République du Cameroun doesn't want to sit down and talk with anyone addressing the root causes because they know that they have no arguments to present. They know that this territory doesn't belong to them. Our case is different from the case of Biafra. Biafra had generally been part of Nigeria. Southern Cameroon is not part of La République du Cameroun. We weren't. When they got independence on the 1st of January 1960, Southern Cameroon was not part of their territory. When they acceded to the OAU principle at the time of uti possidetis juris, of the inviolability of international boundaries, we were not part of La République du Cameroun. And so La République du Cameroun could only join with us at our behest and through a peaceful means. And we were supposed to sign a treaty of union to sanctify this union. Nothing was ever signed. And so what happened was outright rape. Don't come and tell me that because you have power, you have stolen my car and I see you with it, I should just let you be with it because I will never be able to recover it. I want to say this. Mr. Beaton, to close this interval of talking, that whoever is talking, referring to this situation in the Southern Cameroon should note is that the determination of our people is so strong. The philosophy we have is that the Southern Cameroon's flag will not continue to fly because the wind is blowing it. No, it will because of the last breath of all those who are dying to liberate our land and the determination of us all to secure a better future for Ambazonia. This will be our driving force. You talk about backyard, no one will ever come on social media to talk to you about, or on the media to talk to you about where their backyard is. But one thing you should rest assured about is that what I see on the ground is that La République has not understood that they are getting fragile by the day. They have opened a new front in the north, and you are aware, Mr. Biteng.
Yeah,
they have opened a new front in the north against 10 million the northeast.
Yeah,
they are opening new fronts everywhere, every day.
Yes.
So if the government of Cameroon doesn't realize the importance of talking to us now on the root causes of this conflict, they are definitely going to find themselves constrained to fly into pieces.
Of Mr. Otto, Mr. Otto, now we're running up at this point in time. Now, the blame game, you realize that the blame game continues to go on. You are a terrorism specialist. Now, this blame game goes on. The government of Cameroon is reluctant, while the separatists on their part continue to increase their resistance. Now, with all this happening, the local person on the ground, the masses are the ones suffering or paying the huge price. At this point in time, we are at a crossroad. What do you think could be the possible way out? Cardinal Tumi proposes amnesty and ceasefire, but we think from the debate, it seems as this is equally difficult to be achieved. Now, what is the way out? What is the shortest and fastest way out in solving this problem to limit the suffering that the people on the ground are already going through?
I think the way out is very clear. We have seen calls from people like Cardinal Tumi from the UN. We have seen calls from Cameroonians abroad, Cameroonians in Cameroon. I think what we haven't seen is the entire population of Cameroon rising up. I'm not just talking about the population of Southern Cameroon or, the population of Southwest and Northwest region. Now, if the entire people of Cameroon, both regions, as some people would prefer to call it, if they come up and rise up and say this is a united country, as they call it, and they want to see an end to hostilities, then the government would have no choice but to find a long-lasting solution and come to the table. But because the pain has only been felt in one specific region or two specific regions, from a geographical point of view, it seems as if what is happening in those two regions does not concern other regions. Remember, Cameroon has 8 regions, and if the people of the entire country do not rise and hold the government to account, the government believes that it can use its military force to defeat the separatist organization. But this is not going to work because, as time goes on, the war becomes a war of attrition, and the injustices continues to rise. So I think, the government needs to do that, but not just the entire people of Cameroon, but also the diaspora population needs to also rise. I mean, we've seen movements come up and go. The recent one being the Center for Dialogue and Negotiation, the Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiation, which was recently held a serious meeting virtually to talk about an end to the crisis. I think Cameroonians themselves, not the UN, not the African Union, need to be at the forefront of this solution, because the way that things are going, the kind of incidents that are happening, it's a matter of war. And when there is war, it is the people that suffer. And it's only the people of Cameroon that can really resolve this problem. They need to rise against the government.
So your last proposal is that all Cameroonians should definitely join their voices in calling for an end to the crisis in these two English-speaking regions. Now, let me end with you in just 30 seconds, Mr. John Mbah Akuro. We're already out of time. In just 30 seconds now, I want to know from you, what are the separatists on their part doing to bring an end to this crisis? We understand that those who are suffering from this crisis are majority of whom did not bargain for, but they are the ones who are suffering now. On the part of the separatists who are encouraging this fighting to continuously go on, what are you guys doing to ensure that this actually comes to an end? Do you want to maintain the resistance at the mercy of those who are on the ground suffering?
Well, let me give you this little correction before moving on. We are definitely not separatists. We are pro-independentists. Separatists are people who are struggling to separate something that, was a whole. The Southern Cameroons and La République du Cameroun were not a whole. So we are not separating. We are simply pro-independence activists. And what are we doing to ensure that this ends? I'll tell you this very clearly. Like Mr. Otto pointed out, if the citizens of La République du Cameroun considered that we were one people, they would have done exactly what he is saying, and they would have done that a long time ago. But the citizens of La République du Cameroun have been so brainwashed to think that we are intruders, we are invaders seeking to seize their territory and natural resources. And so they are now even themselves part of the problem. That's why the kind of rhetoric that comes from them hardens even the civilians on the territory whom you say are the ones suffering. These civilians know exactly what they want. These people on the territory of the Southern Cameroons know that what we are living now is worse than hell. And so a good lot of them would tell you, give me independence, give me freedom, or give me death. We have been ready at every given moment to discuss with La République du Cameroun. Even today, as I talk to you, we are ready to have that discussion with La République du Cameroun on neutral territory in the presence of a third party, that's the presence of a mediator. And of course, we have made it abundantly clear all the time that the government of the Republic of Cameroon is escaping from every discussion, from every opportunity to truly talk, especially to truly address the root causes of this conflict, because they know all along the line they are the aggressors. Look, my brother, to end this, our people even went as far as accepting, an offer from the Swiss, who deceived us into believing that they already had a mandate from the Republic of Cameroon, being an indication that they were willing to talk. Our people even went in, even when they really felt, okay, we haven't seen this, but let us still show good faith. And at the end of the day, getting to 2 years, the government of Cameroon is saying nothing. A clear indication that they only look for all of those avenues that can give them the opportunity to buy time, to play dilatory tactics, and to see how to, continue fighting and killing our people in the pious hope that by killing more and more people, our people will surrender. But the basic truth is, and this is a take-home, our people have known enough suffering. Living the kind of life we are living and death, there is no difference. So we are either going to all die or we get that freedom that we seek. Thank you.
Thank you, John Mbah Akuro. Now, maybe we have a last call online to wrap up with. If it's a call online, let's get your opinion before we leave the studio in Jiffy. Welcome to the program. All right, certainly that's all for now. Mr. John Mbah Akuro, member of the consortium, leader of the consortium. Otto David Ikoli, thanks for being there. I want to very much appreciate your different contributions and opinions on today's edition of the program Views in the Continent. We're looking at the way out of the crisis, Kazna Tumi, calling for a ceasefire and equally amnesty for separatist leaders. That's a recent what's up regarding the crisis situation in Cameroon in the two English-speaking regions, 4 years and counting. We hope to meet you again next time to discuss more on Cameroon. But then we invite you to stay tuned to Afrique Media for more programs. Thank you, those of you who commented on our Facebook page, those of you who called us. We equally want to appreciate. Until then, we'll meet again. It's been a wonderful time being here on the program Views on the Continent. It's about from here. Stay tuned to Afrique Media. Bye-bye.
Hello?
Hello, you're on the program. Good day to you, sir.
I very appreciate it. I very appreciate all what you are talking about it. Good day and good day to all the viewers of Afrique Media. Okay, thank you, Afrique Media. Thank you for what you are doing. Thank you,